Glad to have you with us here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here with you as we are talking about the wrap-up of OTAs. With it in the rear-view mirror, we got some final thoughts on OTAs of what we've seen over the last 3 weeks. We'll go over whose stock and whose stock is down, who's up and down from OTAs. Our last list of winners and losers that we'll go over coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, try to reach our next milestone, 52.5 thousand subscribers here on Seahawks Today. Just over 100 away from reaching that next milestone. As OTAs concludes, we're on the mandatory minicamp, and then training camp will be here soon. We got it all covered here on Seahawks Today. Never miss a moment. Lock us in. Subscribe now for free. Join the family. I promise you, if you subscribe to Seahawks Today, that your life will become instantly better. I can promise you that much. So with that alone, that should give you reason enough to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe now. We'll get started with today's show. Let's begin with Geno Smith. He's first on our winners list, and so far, we've seen nothing but good from Geno Smith in OTAs. He has impressed everyone from Ryan Grubb to the Seahawks coaching staff to the players around him. Geno has been putting in the work, and you have a new system in place, right? And so far what we've seen, this is Geno's time. He's capitalizing on this moment of this new offense coming in and playing to his strengths. He talked about at the beginning of OTAs how as a drop-back passer, this offense suits him. And we heard Ryan Grubb say a couple days ago that the quarterback room, led by Geno Smith, these guys are freaking awesome. That they have freaking awesome quarterbacks in Seattle. Jim Rome, the host of the Jim Rome Show, you can see it on X and also nationally syndicated. He had Geno Smith on his show this week, and Geno talked about how well OTAs have gone for him at this point, and this is what he had to say. In the past 2 weeks, I've seen plays I've never seen before, and that's something to say for a 12-year veteran. Coach Grubb, he's come right in, laid it out for us. He set the tone. He's got high expectations. And the guy, he's got some plays, man. I can't wait to get out there and show the world schematically. It's going to be great. It's really going to be good, and I think it's going to help all the players. I love that enthusiasm from Geno Smith. He's a big winner in OTAs. Who's a winner for you in Seahawks OTAs? Is it Geno Smith? Is it somebody else? Weigh in the comments section. Give me a winner that stood out to you from Seahawks OTAs to this point. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you are talking fantasy points, maybe it's rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, maybe we're talking birdies in golf. You can mix and match different leagues, and it's easy to play at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the promo code CLNS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry. I'm already looking ahead to the start of the season as we got DK Metcalf to have more than 1,025.5 receiving yards. Also got Lamar Jackson to have more than 3,600.5 passing yards. If both these hit and we put $20 down, it's going to turn into $60 on Prize Picks. Go to PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS for that $100 deposit match on your first entry. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Check out Prize Picks today. Next on the losers list is linebacker Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker not practicing at OTAs, not expected to participate in minicamp either with this injury that is holding him back. And if you recall, he also missed several games at the end of this season with the Miami Dolphins as well with a different injury. The injuries are one thing. It sounds like he's expected to recover and be okay in time for training camp. Although that's a concern, because you think about it, he did fail his physical with the Dolphins before he was ultimately released with Miami, but now the learning curve. This is supposed to be one of the starting linebackers for the Seahawks. Baker is supposed to play a significant role in this Seahawks defense, and now he's going to be behind. We've already seen a significant portion of the Seahawks defense installed, and he's not out there. Mike McDonald had this to say on Jerome Baker. He's working through some things right now. We probably won't see him until training camp. He's going to be fine, but right now, we won't see him in OTAs. I wouldn't call it a concern, but anytime someone isn't getting all the reps, you've got to figure out different ways to get them the reps. So it's mental stuff, it's walkthroughs. We're trying to be creative in the building to make sure he gets all the things he needs to see. He'll be up to speed. He'll be ready to roll. So Mike Macdonald seems to be feeling okay, that Jerome Baker's going to be fine, but I'll believe it when I see it. Back to the winners list, the other quarterback in the building. That is Sam Howell. What in the Sam Howell are we talking about today? Well, the talk around Sam Howell is confidence. That's what we've heard from John Schneider, from Mike Macdonald, from Ryan Grubb, that they have confidence in Sam Howell. That's why they traded for him, and so far he's looked the part in OTAs. As he split reps with Geno Smith, Sam Howell has impressed this Seahawks coaching staff, and now you find yourselves in position where you have some potential decisions to make down the road, right? We don't know what Geno Smith's future is beyond this year, but this coaching staff seems to believe that Sam Howell could potentially be the long-term answer the Seahawks are looking for, and it's catching the attention, the eyes around the National Football League. Adam Schefter was on Seattle Sports Radio this week, ESPN NFL insider, and had this to say about Sam Howell. Sam Howell is somebody that they've liked for an awful long time. And Sam Howell is a guy who, when you talk to people around the league, they believe in his abilities and talent, and I think the Seahawks did as well. And I remember his name coming up within that organization last season during the year as a guy they were intrigued with. And I think that they continue to be intrigued by the guy. So Sam Howell receiving praise. No secret the Seahawks are very happy with their backup QB. Back to the losers list we go. That's where we find Abraham Lucas. And Abraham Lucas not participating in OTAs, still recovering from the knee injury that he suffered last year. That was an ongoing issue. Pete Carroll described it as a chronic issue for Abraham Lucas. And the hope is that he's back in time for training camp. But there's a great unknown. And is this going to be a lingering issue for Abraham Lucas? I got to tell you, folks, it's time to panic. I don't know if Abraham Lucas is ever going to be that same player ever again. If this is going to be a problem that continues for Abraham Lucas for quite some time. Now, they do have George Fant, who they signed in free agency, who's more than capable of starting all 17 games if he needs to at the right tackle spot, but that certainly hurts your depth, and it hurts the investment you've made in Abraham Lucas, who, along with Charles Cross, that's supposed to be your starting bookend tackles for years to come. Here's more from Corbin Smith of SI All Seahawks. Starter Abraham Lucas, who underwent off-season knee surgery, isn't expected to return until training camp at the earliest. And veteran George Fant has taken all of the first-team reps in OTAs due to his absence. Who is a loser from Seahawks OTAs? We've mentioned a couple so far. Got another to get to before we wrap up today's show. Who stunk it up or wasn't even involved like Abraham Lucas? Chime in the comments section. Give me a name that comes to mind. Let's shift gears now back to the winners list and mention Jarran Reed. Now, when Jarran Reed is not going after me on X, he's actually performing pretty well at OTAs. And I know that there's some question marks about, okay, what is Jarran Reed going to do on this Seattle Seahawks defense with the addition of Byron Murphy and how this defense is going to switch up with this 4-3, 3-4 hybrid scheme that Mike Macdonald's bringing in, and the question marks about Jarran Reed with his struggles when it comes to run defense. I'll say this, Jarran Reed, one way or the other, is still going to have an important role with this Seahawks team. Whether he's a starter or not, that remains to be seen, but him along with Jonathan Hankins will both be in the rotation. They'll both see significant playing time, and from what we've heard from Mike Macdonald, from AD, and the other coaches around, they are very confident in Jarran Reed, and they feel like that he's going to stick around. And we've talked about in the past that Jarran Reed if he did not adapt accordingly, that his name could come up as a potential cut candidate to save money for this Seahawks team. But all signs point to that Jarran Reed looks the part, that he's done enough to stick around and still play a significant role for this Seahawks team going forward. Here's what Jarran Reed had to say on the Seahawks defense. I think that they will use a lot of my talents a little bit more, moving me around a little bit more. Then we've got multiple guys that can do that. That's the biggest change, not just having us being stationary. I think moving us around a little bit, creating some mismatches for everybody along the line. And with Jarran Reed, too, think about this. He can play defensive tackle. He can play defensive end. And so when you hear him talk about moving around and doing different things, you have to appreciate the flexibility that he's going to bring to that Seahawks defense in whatever role is asked of him. Another loser on the list is Anthony Bradford. Anthony Bradford at the offensive guard spot, second-year player out of LSU, had his struggles in 2023 as a rookie. The Seahawks draft Christian Haynes, and Christian Haynes got plenty of playing time in OTAs, and right now with Bradford out and Haynes being the new kid on the block, if you will, he's winning the job at the moment. Well, we see Anthony Bradford not out there. Haynes is capitalizing on this opportunity, and he's the odds-on favorite to get the starting position with Bradford coming off the bench at this point. More from Corbin Smith of SI's All Seahawks. As for the guard spot, incumbent starter Anthony Bradford has been sidelined by an ankle sprain, and rookie Christian Haynes has been behind McClendon Curtis this far, leaving the starting job wide open. It's wide open, sure, but the edge right now belongs to Christian Haynes at the moment. Back to the winners list we go. That's where we find Riq Woolen. Riq Woolen coming off a sophomore slump in 2023, where in particular he struggled with tackling. And we've talked a lot on this program about Riq Woolen needing to put some work in, that he's got a job to do to get back to what he was as a rookie and build upon that, right? And what we've seen from Riq Woolen is not only an impressive showing in OTAs, but him playing with a chip on his shoulder, playing with something to prove over the last couple of weeks. And so far, it's looked pretty good from Riq Woolen that he's had a wake-up call, if you will, throughout this OTAs period. Michael Bumpus of Seattle Sports, former Seahawk, had this to say: I hear a guy who sounds more mature, too. Going into your third year in the league will do something to you. So I've heard a young man who's been through a lot. He's been at the top. He's had some failures, but he's excited to kind of rewrite his story of who he is. Kind of sounds like Cody Rhodes there, right? And I believe him. But there's some competition, and I think he realizes that too. They didn't just draft two DBs to just sit on the bench and observe what's going on. What's your confidence level in Riq Woolen this year? Scale it for me in the comment section, 1 through 10. How you feeling about the young Seahawks corner? Is this going to be a bounce-back year for him? Scale it for me in the comment section, 1 through 10. I feel good. I think Rick's going to turn things around and have a big year this year. I'm going with about an 8 or 9. Give me your number in the comment section. Last on the list, we go to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. JSN, he has been the talk of the town throughout OTAs over the last couple of weeks. And as we've mentioned previously, going into year 2 for JSN, with the uncertainty about the long-term future for Tyler Lockett, and while DK Metcalf is still waiting on a contract extension, this is a time for JSN to capitalize and to thrive, taking the mantle, if you will, for this Seahawks receiving core and pushing himself forward. And think about this. With what the Seahawks want to do with this passing attack, the Seahawks want to spread you out, right? They want to go vertical. They want to go horizontal. They want to find guys open in space. And that should be where JSN excels. And what we've seen in OTAs, according to Brady Henderson of ESPN, he said this in an interview with Seattle Sports, that JSN is turning into Geno's guy. I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba is legitimate breakout candidate this year. The one practice we saw last week, the second of 3 OTAs, he was downright dominant. By my count, 8 touchdown catches. He just looks like he's becoming Geno Smith's guy. So how about that? That is the complete report, the final wrap-up from OTAs with your full list of winners and losers. For more off-season coverage as we shift gears to mandatory minicamp, subscribe now to Seahawks Today. Lock us in, never miss a moment. We'll see you next time here on the channel.